What's up, guys? MtgJedi here. Thrilled and blessed to be joined by my dude Bront, and he's my faction wars bro. There's not another person in the game who loves the faction war content as much as me, except Bront. And so I'm really grateful that he took time out of his busy schedule to join me here. We just wrapped up a collab on his channel. I'll follow the links in the description. Make sure you go check that out. How you doing today, my dude?
I'm super excited. It's fun talking faction wars. It's good talking with you in general. You're my dude. This is just a lot of fun. And I mean, we're talking behind the scenes on all kinds of other stuff too. So it's always great to get a chance to talk with you on camera about some of this stuff as well. So looking forward to talk some hard faction wars, particularly because you and I made a video about what we wanted about hard faction wars. So this will be kind of a good follow up on what Plarium did right, what they did wrong, and what we're liking about it.
Yeah, for sure. So my first thing is that a lot of what they did I do like. We have reasonable good rewards, we have a mythical champion, we have definitely interesting things going on in here, and like all of that was stuff that we wanted. But I don't know about you, but I did not expect us to have a 3-star condition for every stage.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of these things that I guess it made sense from a let's make this content challenging perspective because that's certainly been as much as just getting through the stages. Those 3 stars has definitely been a challenge.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I also think that it's what would have been the case because otherwise it would have been the 1 star was getting through it. The second star was getting through it with 5 champions at all. So it wasn't like the 3 stars was, you weren't going to have that as an option in hard because it wasn't a problem
Yeah.
in hard.
Yeah.
So it made some sense. And, there's some good and some bad points on those as well. I mean, sometimes they're fun, sometimes they're thematic, and sometimes they're not. They're
Yeah.
frustrating or they're gear dependent. And I'm not a big fan of this faction doesn't have the champions to do this, so you were required to get the gear for it. I'm not a big
Right.
fan of that.
Yeah. I thought we were going to have some of this. I did not think we were going to have a stipulation for every single stage. And my biggest problem with that, well, there's two things. Like you said, all the factions are not created equal. They do not have the same abilities readily available for most or any players. We were talking about dark elves on your channel a little bit, and like when we come to that freeze stage, it's just like we have freeze champions technically, but they're all not good, and that's extremely challenging to manage the waves. The waves are definitely difficult. It's just like, how do you do all the things that you have to do with weird bad champions that you don't
Yeah.
normally use?
And Freeze is actually a good example of one where I think they failed. I actually did a video talking about changing a couple of the gear sets. There's a provoke set, there's a sleep set, effectively, there is a stun set. There is not a freeze set in the traditional set. The freeze
Right.
set requires you to be hit, which means
Right.
you have to put it on a provoke champion and then hope that provoke champion doesn't die and freezes a bunch of people randomly to
Right.
get the same freeze effect that you would with have a champion with freeze.
Yep.
So that's a rough one very specifically. Sometimes there's a couple of them where it's like manipulate the cooldowns of skills. Well, the only way to manipulate the cooldowns of skills where a lot of these factions is masteries. So it's
Yeah.
like run 5 masteries and hope you get lucky. That
Yeah.
that seems like kind of a lame challenge.
You can do it with
There's
gear
a
again
couple of them that
also, but again, you're relying on RNG procs.
Mhm.
So, the my biggest problem with having a stipulation on every level that you want a 3-star is the time commitment. Because even if you have, like, let's say you have all the pieces in place, um, basically every floor is like a new team that you have to build. And so you're
Yeah.
gearing out, you're building a team, and that's going to take 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours for one floor sometimes. You're rerunning it to get the right RNG with your whatever debuffs you're trying to place. And although I do like that, then it's just like a how much time are we supposed to spend in the game, right? I do I do like it, but also it's been too difficult. I've had plenty of days where it's just like, okay, well, I don't have another hour or 2 hours to play raid today. I was going to do my dailies and then either go for the 2-star method like you are, or just skip it entirely for time concerns.
Yeah, and if you guys aren't familiar, I've mentioned to him on the other video where quite often I'm literally just going for the two-star method for the time being and just blowing through the floor with some damage. And if some of it is because some of these challenges are difficult with the way my account is set up on certain floors, and some of it is literally a case of I don't have an extra hour to spare to dedicate to this one floor or two
Right.
floors in Faction Wars when I can then blow through the stage in 5 minutes, get my 2 stars, move on, and come back to it later.
Yeah.
So a lot of what I've been doing is clearing some stuff and then going back to it later. And I'm be fair, I haven't been going back to too many things too often because I'm still progressing on most of my stages. We're finally starting to hit stages where I'm kind of hitting a wall around stage 14-ish or 13 or even 10 in a couple cases because the stats certainly change once you get to 10, for example.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess the second topic that I want to mention here is the faction skills that we've kind of sort of, treaded around. But I one of the things that I like and dislike at the same time is that the hard mode faction wars requires you to use champions that you might not have leveled up. Um, and a great example of that would be in high elves, right? Like a lot of the champions that are going to help you in high elves, like Basilius, who has this guy built, right? So then we are needing to build completely new champions that are only going to be helpful in hard mode faction wars, which I am okay with, but it does provide it does put a strain on people's accounts to be able to build these champions needed and make progress in other, I would even say, more important areas of the game.
Yeah, I mean, Basilius hasn't been relevant for years.
No.
He was actually a Rotos counter at one point in time with that A2 because he's got a triple
Okay.
hitter that ignores a bunch of stuff. So
Yeah.
that was what his big use was early on. But later on, just no, he was never really big into anything. But yeah, he's been super helpful in my faction wars for getting some of the stun stuff there. But yeah, it's some of the factions, yeah, I've got nobody that does stun. So when it comes to a stun floor, it's going to be stun sets or nothing. Same with provokes in some cases. Other factions, I've got, 5 different options for them. It seems it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Or champions that naturally fit the stun sets or provoke set anyway for other content that I was doing. So it was no big deal. I didn't even have to regear them in many shapes or forms. Um, I do like some of the challenges. To be fair, I like this implementation better than I think one of the things we were worried about in our previous video. I don't know if you recall, we were worried that there might be stages where it only limited you to certain affinity,
Oh,
and this is
yeah.
better than
Yeah.
that
It is
because it
better than
doesn't mean you
that.
can't pass the floor. It just means you need to have these conditions to get the third star out of it. And this is
Right.
definitely better than and this is the spirit only skinwalker floor. Just no, no. Thank you. Thank you, Polarium, for not doing that. That would have been
Yeah,
absolutely horrible.
that would have been bad for sure. Okay, well, before we go on to my last point, is there any other talking points that you wanted to bring in here?
Um, well, I mean, one of the things I think that they've done well with this, and I think we should call them out for that, it is great to be an end game player and have something I can do that feels like I'm making progress in the end game. And it's one of the things that Doom Tower kind of feels like that the first time or two you deal with it, but nowadays Doom Tower is a chore you get done for rewards occasionally as a player that's in the end game. Centranos used to have some of that, but once you get Carnage, it does lose a little bit of its luster, particularly for the absolute 100% clear is so painful in some ways that you're kind of missing out on that. So it's nice to have that, and I think that Polarium did nail this particularly well. I initially thought that maybe they overtuned it a little bit, but I really do think anybody who has not been doing live arena is probably missing out. Those live arena faction guardian or great hall rewards for that.
Yeah.
I've almost maxed them out without too much effort. I've maxed out my speed, I've maxed out my crit damage and ignore defense already with almost no expenditure of any kind whatsoever. It's going to be evergreen content because you're going to need those extra stats to be able to farm the top levels even in the end game.
Yeah, and that's a great transition to my last point. One of my issues is exactly that.
Mhm.
When you come over to your area bonuses, I don't think I'm sharing my screen right now, right? So you can't see that all of my faction wars are at 0. I've done that for a couple of reasons, and I recommended other people to do that as well. If your gear level is high and you put ignore defense in your area bonuses, that can be a real challenge, especially on the earlier floors, to not just kill them, to be able to 3-star it without killing them. And I don't like that. I don't know. I guess I don't really have a solution on how to get around that, but just be aware. Like, if you have a really progressed account and you put the ignore defense in here, it's going to be a challenge to not just kill everybody. But the speed,
Yeah.
I think, is the number one that we need here. With you having that maxed out, have you found that that speed increase has been crucial to you clearing stuff?
Oh yeah. The extra 20 speed is huge. It's the difference between floors where I can just throw champions in that I don't have to re-gear specifically for hard, and they're still faster than the waves by enough. Plus, if you then get increased speed, that's extra speed on top of that.
Yeah.
Plus, you got auras that throw extra stuff on there. There's so many things that play off of speed. It's been huge. Crit damage is certainly a safer way to go than ignore defense for what you're talking about. But honestly, once you're past stage, floor 3 or 6, you're going to want the ignore defense anyway. Because once you're getting past stage 6, that ignore defense is not going to make a difference, and it's
Okay.
going to make a difference positively for you. It's not going to be a negative impact for you
All
at that
right,
point
all
in
right.
time.
I really like going for accuracy and HP as well.
Agreed.
But I think that this is a really easy place to upgrade to give you some help, especially if you're struggling here. So I think we'll wrap it up after that. How are you guys liking hard mode faction wars? Are you enjoying it? Are you skipping it? Are you not there yet? You know, we always love, especially on these collabs, checking the comments to see what you guys think about the topics we're discussing here. Bront, thank you so much for being here on the channel today for this hard mode faction wars discussion. Anything you want to say before we wrap it up?
No, I mean it's fun hearing some of these things. It's actually nice to get counterpoints where you and I don't always agree on this stuff here. I don't think your points are invalid with that ignore defense. I, on the other hand, maxed it out and didn't have a huge problem to start with. Other than yes, there were a couple of floors where, especially like I think I was talking about in the other theme, where I was using Trunda for the burn stuff. Well, if Trunda's killing people, she's certainly not stunning them afterwards, so that was a bit of a problem. So, yes, it is a problem on the very early floors. It's not going to be a problem past then. But I think that's actually an interesting point to maybe hold off on that. And because it is cheap to do, it's
Yeah,
not like you can't hold off on that until you get past stages 1 through 3 and then push it on later on. So,
right, right.
but at the same time, if you're struggling with Faction Wars normal, well, throwing points into there that helps you get through Faction Wars normal, you're probably not going to have that problem when you transition from normal to hard. So that's not
Yeah,
going to be a problem for you either.
yeah.
So, but yeah, great points. I love talking to you about this stuff. And honestly, I love talking with you in general. You're my dude. So it's good to chat with you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, man. Well, thank you so much for being here. Again, go check out Bront. I'll have his links in the description. And you guys have a great day. We'll see you guys later.